Alright, number 43, the vertices of quadrilateral EFGH are given, and I went ahead and graphed those. It says, what kind of quadrilateral is EFGH? Well, I'm looking at this, and it's real easy to see from this picture, I think, that this is not a square, because if I were to connect all these points, you can just see it's not a square. So definitely not a square, so it can't be B. It's not a rhombus, because a rhombus means all the sides are the same, and I can tell that EH is way bigger than EF. Again, EH is way bigger. So I've already eliminated two choices just by taking a minute and graphing these. So now I have a 50-50 chance even if I don't know anything else. Now I do know something else. I know that trapezoid only has one pair of parallel sides. So what I'm going to do on this question is I'm going to figure out the slopes, because I know a trapezoid only has one pair of parallel sides. Alright, so I need to find the slope of EH. So, slope of EH, and I just picked EH. I mean, I want to see if I need to find out EH and FG if they have the same slope. If they have the same slope, they are parallel. So I'm going to find those two slopes. FG is my other one. And they need to be the same to be parallel. Alright, let's check that out. So EH, and I can do slope one of two ways. I'm going to do slope just with rise over run. I can also use the formula. So how much does it rise to get from H to E? It goes up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then it goes, so the rise is 9, and then the run is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, so it goes 9 across. So, and it's going downhill for my slope, so I know it's a negative. So it's negative 9 over 9, or negative 1. I'm going to do FG a little bit differently just so you can see both ways to do slope. So for FG, I'll actually use the formula. So I'll call this, I can call this x1, y1. If I call that one x1, y1, this one's x2, y2. So I'll use the slope formula now, which is y2 minus y1. You're changing your y over you're changing your x. x2 minus x1. So y2 is 6. So 6 minus a negative 3. Remember, that's really 6 plus 3. And then negative 4 minus 5. So 6 plus 3 gives us 9. Negative 4 minus 5 gives us negative 9. So that reduces to negative 1. So these do have the same slope. So these are parallel. I'm going to show that with arrows to show that opposite sides are parallel. And now it's probably going to be easier since these points are so close together. I'm just going to do, I'm going to erase that so I can start again. I'm going to do the slope from H to G. So 1, 2, 3 is my rise. And then 1, 2, 3 is my run, and it's going uphill. So that tells me it's 3 over 3, or 1, positive 1. And I'm going to do the same thing over here with E to F, so it goes up 1, 2, 3, and then it runs 1, 2, 3. And this is positive because it's going up as we read it from left to right. So 3 over 3 is 1. So these slopes are the same as well. So that tells me that opposite sides are parallel. So I just proved it's not a trapezoid because a trapezoid only has one pair of parallel sides. So it's a parallelogram, and it's a special parallelogram because it's a rectangle, and we could figure that out because, well, we can prove that it's got right angles. Here's how. We know that these angles are right because, not just by looking at it, don't tell me they look right, but what do we know about perpendicular slopes? Perpendicular slopes, and these are the two things you need to remember, among other things, but for this topic, perpendicular means that they have the opposite reciprocal for the slope. So in other words, our slope for this line for EF was 1. Our slope for EH is -1. So if we write these as fractions, if it's the opposite reciprocal, that means I should be able to take the reciprocal, which is to flip the numbers, so it becomes 1 over 1. Well, that's right. And take the opposite sign. So the opposite sign, this was positive, I made it negative. So indeed, they are opposite reciprocal slopes. So that's what tells me that these are all going to be perpendicular, which makes it a rectangle. All right. Okay, number 44, it says R is the midpoint of segment PS. So what does that mean? It means that PR is the same thing as RS. So this distance here is the same as this distance here if R is the midpoint, right? Okay. So Q is the midpoint of RS. That means that RQ and QS are the same. So P is located at 810. I'm just going to write these down. 810. S is located at 12, -6. And it wants to know where is Q. Well, halfway from P to S is R is what they told us. So I can find, I don't know what R is, but I can find it because R is the midpoint. So I could just use my midpoint formula, which is you just average up the X values. There's 2 of them, so you divide by 2, and you just average up the Y values. There's 2 of them, so divide by 2, and write it as an ordered pair. So how's that going to help me? Well, if I find the midpoint of R, then I know that Q is the midpoint of RS, so I can just use the midpoint formula twice is what I'm going to do. And it really helps to draw this out and see it. So I'm going to go ahead and plug in. So my X values, this is X, this is Y, X and Y. So if I add up my 2 X's, and really the order doesn't matter, you're just adding them up and taking the average. So 8 plus 12 over 2, and 10 plus -6 over 2. So 8 plus 12 is 20, 20 divided by 2 is 10, 10 plus -6 is 4, 4 divided by 2 is 2. So R is going to be at 10, 2. Now to find out what Q is, I know that Q is halfway between R and S. So if I take the averages of the X's and the Y's with R and S, that'll give me point Q. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to take that's my X, that's my Y. So 10 plus 12, I'm just adding up the X's and taking their average. And 2 plus -6. 10 plus 12 is 22. 22 divided by 2 is 11. 2 plus -6 is -4. -4 divided by 2 is -2. So 11, -2 is where Q is. Now look there, I want you to be careful because if you only did the midpoint formula once, that answer choice is choice D. So you got it half right, but you didn't finish the problem. You have to answer what they're asking. And I'll end the video with a little outlook thing. It says technically the glass is always full because it has half air and half water. So there's a positive way to look at that. So quit being negative, right? And why did I bring that up? Because that's our midpoint. Halfway. But technically, it's all the way full.